it's Sandra. Welcome to Asexualise, My Asexual Life. If you don't know already, I am Sandra Bellamy, author of Asexual Perspectives, founder of asexualise.com and founder of Asexualise Academy. Welcome to another episode live. So if you want to get in touch, please do so in the live stream chat. Ask me any questions you want. I got a special episode tonight for you because I am in Fem Medic. Yes, I'm in an article for that. So I'm going to swap the camera around in a minute so you can take a look at the article with me. I'm so proud to be spreading more awareness of asexuality. This is a place to be for education about asexuality and all things relating to asexuals, asexual dating, asexual relationships, asexual friendship, and of course empowering you to be the best asexual person that you can possibly be. So without further ado, let's get on and have a look at this article. So this is the article I'm in, which is on the 14th of September 2018, and this is all about asexual dating. What is it like dating when you're asexual? And Imogen has interviewed me and another person. So I don't own the copyright to this, obviously. It is my words that are in here, but the Fem Medic is the one who's got this article. I will put a link after this video's process to the article so you can actually see the article for yourself. So if we just scroll down here, so it's talking about what's it like dating when you're asexual by Imogen Robertson. So this is Imogen who's done this article. So I'll read it out to you. Don't forget there's me being interviewed for this and another person too. So I think she starts off really well. I like Imogen's style actually. I think she's got a really good grasp of asexuality and what it is overall. There are a huge number of misconceptions floating around when it comes to asexuality. People presume you must not only avoid sex but also relationships, romance, and any sort of romantic physical contact. This is far from the truth, however. There is a notable difference between someone identifying as aromantic and asexual. Some asexual people are aromantic, meaning they don't desire sex with another person, and nor do they experience any romantic attraction towards other people. They may have a sex drive and they may masturbate or they may not. Others may crave romantic relationships but not the sex part. For many asexual people, it may take several years to work out what they like and don't like. It is one thing, however, to understand your sexuality yourself, but another to then have to explain that to others. All the more so if you, say, fancy someone but don't want to have sex with them. So how do people who identify as asexual but who experience romantic attraction to others go about dating in a hypersexualized world where the dated but still omnipresent idea of the nuclear family reigns supreme? So Casey Erins, I presume I've pronounced her name right, is someone else they've interviewed. A 28-year-old actor, writer and director who identifies as non-binary femme. So actually I can't say her, I have to say them. So I hope I pronounced them name correctly. Asexual and biromantic they identify as. Had the relative advantage of realising she was asexual at a, again, relatively young age and therefore didn't date before this. I had the occasional crush in high school and college but never acted on any of them, she says. There were a few boys in high school that asked me out, but I always found reasons to turn them down. When she was 19, someone introduced her to the term demisexual, and her research led her to an asexual support network, through which she realised she was completely asexual. Despite this realisation, it also became clear at the same time that there were still hurdles to overcome. Oh, this is really interesting because this quote here is actually my quote, which you will see in a minute, because they quoted in the middle of the article. But for this bit here is actually my own quote, but you'll see this later on. Up until that time, I dated heterosexuals. I could feel their sexual energy, and the feeling of the expectation of sex made me so anxious that I knew I could not date them anymore. So that's basically what it's coming on to with my article in a little while. So this is talking about Casey Erins. So around the time I realised I was asexual, one of my best friends told me she had feelings for me, said Casey. I told her that I didn't think it would be a good idea for us to date because I was asexual and she was not. At that point, like many others, Casey was working under the assumption that a non-asexual person wouldn't want to be with her. I always shut things down myself before it could progress at all, she says. Perhaps for this reason, Casey's first real relationship was long distance, with a girl who also identified on the asexual spectrum. This worked well for me, she says, and for a long time I figured that was the best case scenario. However, with time, she has come to understand that it is indeed completely possible to have a romantic relationship with someone who isn't necessarily asexual. Sandra Bellamy, a self-employed writer from Exeter, has written books about asexuality and runs a resource website for asexual people, realised she was asexual in 2014. She identifies as asexual in that she doesn't desire sex with other people, but does experience multiple forms of attraction to men, not all of which are platonic. Sandra's situation differs to Casey's in that before she knew she was asexual, she was in heterosexual relationships for half of her life. I didn't have sex as I thought... Oh, sorry. I did have sex. I'm saying I didn't. I did. See, I've forgotten. It's that long ago. I did have sex as I thought I had to as part of a relationship, she says. She found out she was asexual after eventually going to see a counsellor, as she found she just couldn't date heterosexuals anymore. Up until that time, from 2012 until 2014, I dated heterosexuals, she says, and she was in a long-term sexual relationship before that too. I could feel their sexual energy, and the feeling of the expectation of sex made me so anxious that I knew I could not date them anymore. That's totally true. I still get that feeling. I don't get that feeling so much being just around asexuals now, but actually, the expectation of sex is just too much for me a lot of the time. If that's what they're after. Nonetheless, the counsellor simply told her she should have sex in order to keep a good guy. I was horrified, says Sandra, but I went home and Googled I love kissing but not sex and found the term asexuality, as well as discovering a large online community for asexuals. After a few weeks of research, she realised asexuality was definitely a term she identified with. What are the hardest things about dating when you're asexual? For both Sandra and Casey, the realisation that they were asexual hasn't necessarily made dating easier. Like Casey mentioned, the thought for a long time she could only date asexual people, and Sandra struggled to align her asexuality in a mutually compatible relationship with someone who wasn't asexual. For Casey, the hardest part of dating as an asexual person is the internal struggle. I worry that I'm not enough for my partner, or that she would be happier with someone who would be more willing to have a relationship with a consistent sexual aspect, she says, although she acknowledges that this is mainly due to self-consciousness that stems from being socialised to think that sex is a be-all and end-all of a relationship. So they've again quoted her, I worry that I'm not enough for my partner, or that I should be happy with someone who would be more willing to have a relationship with a consistent sexual aspect. It's weird, isn't it? They've quoted mine in hers and hers in above my speech. Sandra struggles to find the right asexual guy to be in a romantic relationship, and while she has many heterosexuals keen to date her, she finds getting an asexual match is tougher, and from her experience, many of her asexual friends feel the same. It is all the more difficult for her because her needs are somewhat nicher. I'm a heteromantic, hyperromantic, asexual, younger cougar who does not like sex, but lots of passionate kissing with the tongue, she says. She finds the way she likes to kiss is too sexual in behaviour for some asexual guys, and not sexual enough for sexual people who want and need sex. I strongly desire the romance and affection that only a genuine asexual guy could comfortably give me without the sex, she says. Nonetheless, relationships can do work out. Casey has been with her allosexual, someone who experiences sexual attraction partner for 3 years. Just like in any other relationship, communication and compromise are really important to keep us both happy and healthy, she says. We love each other enough to make it work. That's the important thing. If you are asexual and struggling with any aspect of your asexuality, there's a wealth of support out there. Education sites about asexuality, social networks, and asexual dating sites are just some of the places people can go to for help. And many of these also contain resources to share with family and friends, or friends and family, it's put there, members. And this is the author, this is the person who wrote the article, Imogen, which I really like. Imogen Robinson, deputy editor of the FemMedic. Imogen joined the FemMedic after working as a news reporter, becoming frustrated with the never-ending clickbait. She jumped at the chance to work for a site whose ethos revolves around honesty and empathy. From reading articles about doctors to researching her own and discussing health with a huge variety of women, she is fascinated by just how little we are told about our own bodies and women's specific health issues, and it is exciting to be working on a site which will dispel myths and taboos and hopefully help a lot of women. Now, there was a post that was written earlier this week, and this is, I'm asexual, here's what I always get asked. Now, there's something I don't actually agree with this in this article. There's a person in here, right, and she's saying about she's bisexual and asexual, but bisexual is when you're sexually attracted to two people. If you're romantically attracted to two people, which she is, and asexual as far as I understand from the article, then she is a biromantic asexual. She's not bisexual. So I don't know where she's got that idea from. I mean, obviously, it's up to people how they identify, but I just think it's going to really confuse the reader. But I'm going to read it anyway. So, I'm asexual, here's what I always get asked. So this is the article. I could have actually been part of this article if I'd have been in time, but I wasn't because I was doing an asexual meetup. So this was on the 7th of September. This was again by Imogen. In itself, it can be forgivable for someone to be curious about that which they are not. This is partly because it can simply be hard to imagine being any different, or what experiences, thoughts and feelings other than your own might be like. Problems arise when this curiosity doesn't consider the often privileged position it stems from or the impact it might have on others. It isn't necessarily cool to ask people of different orientations questions about themselves. After all, if you are cis and straight, two things that have always been entirely tolerable and acceptable, two things that have always been entirely tolerated and accepted, it's unlikely people will march up to you asking, how do you have sex? And rightly so. What anyone does, thinks or feels about their gender or sexuality is no one else's business. However, curiosity often kills a cat, and people who aren't cis and or straight often find they get bombarded with intrusive, rude, or even outright silly questions. Some will develop go-to answers to help them deal with the situation. Others might employ humour or sarcasm to diffuse the situation, and others might turn the question back to the other person to make them realise how inappropriate it is. An unfortunate flip side of a society that has become more willing to discuss sex openly is that those who don't have any sexual inclinations find themselves increasingly stigmatised. The upshot is that one group of people who often get approached with silly questions are those who identify as asexual. But what are the questions they most often get asked, and how do they respond? Again, this is by Imogen, and I'm not in this article. But I think it's interesting to read out. And then I can link to the two articles underneath. But like I said, I don't agree with the bisexual bit in this. So what does asexuality mean? Devon, a 20-year-old student who first began identifying as asexual when she was 17, says this is the question she gets asked the most, and for her is the most simple to answer as her brain switches to autopilot whenever she is asked. I just recite asexuality describes someone. Oh right, so the question she gets asked is, what does asexuality mean? I just recite asexuality describes someone who doesn't experience sexual attraction, she says. The tone of the individual asking really influences the tone which I use to answer, she continues, adding that for the most part she is happy to raise awareness of her sexuality as she understands that sex education rarely covers it. However, she says you do get people who don't want to answer. Instead, they ask the question in an honest, hostile way, ready to use any answer you give as a jumpstart for their personal rant about PC culture and dumb labels. How can you be sure you're asexual? Katie, a 19-year-old student, says she often gets people telling her she'll see she's I'll often get people telling her she'll see she's not asexual when she meets the right person, especially as she's relatively young. I just say something random because I feel like it's exhausting to explain and again, something that the person asking doesn't even care about, she says. But I do wonder, are these same people asking 3-year-olds if they have a girlfriend or boyfriend, she adds, because of course, when you put it like that, the bizarre nature of the question becomes clear. She believes more media attention on asexuality could help raise awareness of the fact that some people just don't feel sexual attraction. I really believe that as well. We need more TV coverage, to be honest. I don't think we've hardly got anything on TV. In the Emmerdale soap over in the UK, there's an asexual character, but she hasn't even come out as asexual, but she's been in the media as being an asexual character. How can you live without sex? I'm always tempted to just reply, get over yourself, says Devon, but I'm aware that such a response can backfire on me. In Devon's opinion, there is a strange idea going around that asexual people can't or won't have sex, and it's far from true. Yes, there are some asexual people who are sexually repulsed, she says, but there's also others who are completely up for it. When someone tells me that I should try sex, I ask them how I'm supposed to choose who to have sex with when I'm not sexually attracted to people of any gender. 30-year-old Lucia, who has identified as asexual since she was 18, also gets asked this question, or variations thereof. When someone tells me that I should try sex, I ask them how am I supposed to choose who to have sex with when I'm not attracted to people of any gender, she says. In any case, she adds, lots of asexual people have tried sex. Interestingly, Lucia says she has had this question from a lot of straight men, and sometimes she finds it helpful to rephrase the question and ask them whether they would have sex with another man, and if not, why not? Usually they respond with something as simple as a thought just doesn't appeal to me, says Lucia, and there you go. The thought of sex just doesn't appeal to an asexual person. Emma, 35, who has been with her partner Ben for 12 years, takes an even more simple approach to this question. How do you know you don't like skydiving if you haven't tried it? She responds. I trust my instincts, and my instincts say, oh, no thanks. So why would I want to try it? It's not like I need sex in my life to be happy. Do asexual people experience arousal, and do they masturbate? Now, the answer to this question is in my Asexual Perspectives book. If you haven't yet got it, check it out. The link's down below in the description under this video. And, in my Asexual Perspectives book, I literally ask people all the taboo questions that no one wants to come out and ask every asexual. Like, do you experience arousal? What do you think of BDSM? What do you think of kinks? What do you think of masturbation? And all that type of thing. You really should check it out. It's a really good book. I know it's my own book, but I interviewed 46 asexuals around the globe for it. So it's not just me. There's a ton of people giving their experience in there that can really help you. So do asexual people experience arousal and do they masturbate? I always find it funny when people think it's okay to ask a stranger these questions. So most of the time my answer is that it's personal, none of their business, says Lucia. However, the answer is that some asexual people experience arousal, and as with the general population, some masturbate and some don't. As asexuality is just about whether or not you experience sexual attraction, it doesn't make a difference whether you get aroused or masturbate. Many asexual people talk about having a libido or sex drive that isn't directed towards anyone else. And some who masturbate describe it as taking care of a bodily function. Personally, I just find it relaxing, says Lucia. How can you be bisexual and asexual? You see, this is what I don't agree with in this context. It's easy, said Devon. They describe different things. Bisexuality describes an attraction to two genders, she explains, while asexuality describes someone who doesn't experience sexual attraction. Therefore, combine the two, I experience romantic attraction to two genders, men and women, she adds. That's actually wrong. Bisexual is who you are sexually attracted to, two people. A biromantic is someone who's asexual and romantically attracted to two genders. So I don't know where she gets it. I mean, if you look in the dictionary, bisexual is who you are sexually attracted to, two different, genders, two different sexes. So I don't know why she put that in there. I have heard of people who are sexual and asexual, as in, for example, heterosexual towards women, but yet they're biromantic towards guys, so they might you know, and women. So basically, they want to have sex and get sexually attracted to women, for example, if they're a guy, but he can also be romantically attracted to other guys and want a romantic relationship with them. So that, you know, but that isn't the same as what this person's saying. You know, they've got it wrong. Bisexual and asexual are the opposite of each other in the sexual sense. So Devon is often asked this question in a sceptical tone, or says that the person asking asks as if they've caught her out in a lie. Most people respond to my answer with "that doesn't make sense" or "that's rubbish." So more often than not, I don't answer it, she says. When asked, I just say it doesn't matter. I think the confusion is there. Like I said, is bisexual is who you're sexually attracted to. Asexual is who you're not sexually attracted to. So, to all intents and purposes, she's bi-romantic, not bisexual. But it's up to people how they identify, if they want to identify that way. But it's very confusing for other asexuals, that statement, and for other people that are bisexual. They're sexually attracted to two people. What makes a relationship different from a friendship if you're asexual? As Devon explains, romantic attraction and sexual attraction are two different things. The reason asexual people differentiate between the two is because a lot of asexual people do desire relationships which they see as distinct from friendships. Even if you don't believe that a sexless relationship fits your own definition of a relationship, it doesn't mean it's not a relationship. Those relationships may involve deep feelings of love and affection, non-sexual physical intimacy, making a commitment to each other, maybe even raising children together, things that make many couples, regardless of sexual orientation, want and have, says Lucia, adding that many asexual people she knows are in long-term relationships and some are engaged. My personal view is that people are free to define their own relationships, she adds. Even if you don't believe that a sexless relationship fits your own definition of a relationship, it doesn't mean it's not a relationship. I just find this question so utterly bizarre, said Emma. Are there really people for whom love consists of nothing but sexual attraction? Ben and I love to look at each other. We love to kiss and cuddle and have skin contact with one another. We share a bed. We trust each other and laugh and emotionally support. If that's not love, I don't know what is. And I think that's so true. I think that is true soulmate love. You know, I think a sexless relationship is, you know, where you get on and the best ever friends and love spending time with each other. You know, I think that is pure love. Soulmate love, you know. I'm not saying you can't be soulmates with someone and have sex, but I'm just saying the sex shouldn't be the focus. And, you know, if you take the sex away, it should still be that strong as described here. Can asexual people have relationships with people who aren't asexual? As with any relationship, it depends on the people involved, says Lucia. There are many relationships which break down due to problems with sexual compatibility, even if none of the people involved are asexual. However, she adds that asexuality can present some additional challenges, and that some asexual people do prefer to only date with other asexual people. However, others will happily date people who aren't asexual, and how that works depends. As with all relationships, it's likely to involve a degree of compromise on both sides, said Lucia. Do you think I could be asexual? Believe it or not, this is one of the most common questions I get, simply because I'm often people's first exposure to the concept, says Emma. Her answer is simple, that if asexual is a label that feels right to you, there's no reason you can't be. If down the track you decide this isn't quite the right description of your experience, then there's no reason you can't change your mind, she says. For people confused about any aspect of their sexuality or who believe they may be asexual, there are plenty of resources that can help. What is Asexuality is a simple site with useful guides for figuring out if you're asexual, as well as information for friends and parents. Another great resource is the Asexuality Visibility Education Network, an online community for asexual people. Names have been changed. Oh, my name wasn't changed, by the way. Featured image shows black and white image of a woman looking at camera against a coloured panned background. And it's Imogen again. So yeah, so that's Imogen's other article. So what do you think? If you want to get back to that article that I was in, then this is good. See, not everyone can orgasm from penetrative sex. Here's how sex toys can help. I just have to. I know this is on this Femme Medic that I'm in. This is the article I'm in, but I just have to say that this is very, very good they've put this, because a lot of women, they can't orgasm through sex anyway. So for a lot of women, it's kind of like, what's the point in even having sexual intercourse? Because penetrative sexual intercourse often can't cause an orgasm anyway. With guys, it's different. But with women, a lot of the time, they can't. So if they're desiring sexual pleasure, it's better for them to have foreplay and other things than it is for them to have penetrative sex anyway. Which I don't like penetrative sex, to be quite honest. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting and insightful and useful. What do you think about the 2 articles? Have you got any comments, queries, or questions? I just think it's fabulous to be spreading more awareness of asexuality. I love doing interviews. I love being interviewed. I love the fact that I'm in there as a asexual writer as well. It really makes me so proud that I just love writing. It's my huge passion, and asexuality is a huge passion of mine. Writing is just, my first love. It always has been, but asexuality is just so close to that. To be able to write asexual books, I need to write more. Like, I've written that Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, a celebration of asexual diversity. That's out on Amazon. I've got notebooks / journals out for asexuals now as well as asexual t-shirts, but I am going to be doing more books for asexuals in specific niches of asexuality. I have to stress that. Anyway, until next time, embrace your quirky and each other's. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Please share it with all your friends or whoever may benefit. I will put the links in the description after this video is processed. Until next time, please take good care of yourself. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I post a new video or go live. See you soon. Embrace your quirky and each other's. Bye-bye.